I'm calling the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is roll call, please.
Mrs. Root.
Here.
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Mr. Curran.
Here.
Mr. Sear.
Here.
Mrs. Hanchett.
Here.
Mr. Healy.
Here.
Mr. Ricky.
Here.
Mrs. Ricketts-Swales.
Here.
Mr. Stockin.
Here.
9 present.
And I just want to make a comment that there's 9 members of our committee, and we all cannot fit up on the dais today. So Phil Curran is sitting down in his normal chair, but you're here in spirit, Phil. So the first item we have is Rita Selbeck Lynch. She's not going to be able to make it today. Rita, we're thinking about you. Hope you get over and feeling better soon. There is a monthly report, and she said she would take any questions. If we have any questions for her monthly report, we can contact her. Oh, the minute. I forgot to ask for approval of the January 19th minutes, and I'll entertain a motion for those. Adam Sear makes them, and Mrs. Hanchett seconds it. All in favor? Well, any discussion on the monthly report? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's carried. I feel like I'm rusty here today. So we've already talked about Rita, and next up is Keir Durham, Planning Director. We have his monthly report, and Keir has also 2 requests for us that he's going to explain. But first, let's talk about the monthly report. Keir, do you want to hit on some highlights?
Yep.
And then we'll open up for questions.
Yep, so we continue working with our communities. One of the things that we started between last month and now is working with the town of Willing on their comprehensive plan. We're on a pretty aggressive schedule with them to hopefully complete that within this calendar year. And then tonight there's a planning board meeting. If you ever want to zoom in on that, just send a note to me or Michelle Denhoff. We can easily get you the link. Actually, it tends to not change month to month anyway, so once you got it, you should be good. But anybody's allowed to zoom in on that. We'll be doing it this month and probably next month via Zoom, and then we'll see how things are. We're covered under the current rules from the state to continue to do it via Zoom, so we probably will. Local waterfront revitalization plan, we met with the consultant regarding that project. It's still moving along. Originally, we had planned to do another road show with them, where they were going to go to every single town along the river, and just like they did last summer. In looking at the data that they acquired last summer, they noticed that the vast majority of the data that they got was actually online and using various survey tools that they had available. And so they've decided that they're going to put together a little piece and some series of survey tools to try to get more information and get the word out about what is sitting on that plan currently. I don't have much more detail at this moment of what they're going to give you, but it'll be about the time we're at NISAC. We're coming back from NISAC, so about the same time as we do this committee meeting next month. So I should have more detail by then, how that's going to work. We have received word that the printer is running behind for printing the tour guide. We're ahead of some other counties who haven't even found a printer, so that's the good news is at least we have a printer and he has the document and he's going to print it shortly. But at this point, the last I heard was around March 1st to have them delivered to us. So originally I expected by this meeting I would have them in hand and be able to hand you out the new guide. So we'll get that out when they come in. And we are hoping that we'll have them in hand by March 1st because there's a couple of shows, one in Erie, PA, and one in Hamburg, New York, the following 2 weekends, that we really would rather have the new stuff out for that. And we're working on setting up the distribution for the guide with some vendors. And there's about 30,000 guides that were requested to be printed, so we'll be distributing those through various distribution locations around Western New York, Central New York, perhaps into Pennsylvania, and maybe Ohio. And so we'll let you know more about that as the rest of those fill out. I was notified that the current planning development specialist is going to have to resign and will be leaving us in March. When we had created the planner position in December, we had asked for backfill. My assumption at that time was that we would simply move the current planning and development specialist up and backfill. That obviously, technically, I need to come back and ask for a fill for the planning and development specialist rather than a backfill, since they're just leaving. So I wanted to let you know that, and also we'll be asking shortly for the creation of an associate planner, which is a new title for a lot of the same duties that the planning and development specialist has been doing. We are looking at a lot of rather large projects coming up in the next few years. The Farmland Protection Plan, we've been in talks with Cornell Cooperative and Soil and Water. The last Farmland Protection Plan was done approximately in 2004. It's way out of date, so that needs to be done. The Hazard Mitigation Plan is due to be done this year. It was a 3,000-page document last time. It's going to require a wholesale fix, and hopefully it won't be 3,000 pages again. And we had planned to do most of that work in-house, so that'll be a big project. The County Comprehensive Plan is also coming up on its schedule for an update, and so that's a big project. We continue with different other things like shared services, police reform plan, helping towns and villages with Main Street projects, helping them with their historic districts and funding for historic sites, doing the town and village technical assistance like I talk about with Willing and Amity and Belmont, things like that. And then just continuing with GIS and tourism and all the other stuff we're doing. So we definitely could use the help in those upcoming large projects in the department.
So before you go any farther,
Yep.
I'll ask if anybody has any questions concerning your monthly report before we move on.
Yeah, and I have the this Wild Souls thing too, which didn't make it on the calendar.
Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions right now on his monthly report? Do you want to go ahead and then talk about the Wild Souls?
I'll do Wild Souls. So each month since we started this campaign, it's a Facebook ad campaign. We created a microsite inside the Western New York Wild site that's a lifestyle sub-site that only people that are looking at our ad are getting to that, so we can quantify how many people are really taking the ad and then clicking and going in and then see how much we're doing. The numbers are always cumulative, which is good and bad. The good is the reach, so out to everybody since September is 408,000. We've had link clicks of 4,579 and 25 new newsletter subscribers. So I asked Angela, who works in my office on these things, yeah, so what does all that really mean? And she said, well, let me give you some comparisons to what our original objectives were. The original couple of them, one objective was between September and February, So I'm reporting in February, but these stats are only through January. Increase the number of followers on Facebook by 35% over 6 months. That was one of our objectives. How did we do? We surpassed our objective. As of this reporting, we've increased our followers by 47%. Another objective was to increase the number of followers on Instagram by 35% between September and through February. We've surpassed that objective also. As of this reporting, we've increased our followers on Instagram by 51%. So we have already passed, and we have another month of stats to come in. So we feel like this campaign is doing more than what we had hoped and going in the right direction. And I have the video that was released for January as part of this campaign that Brenda can put up on the screen. You'll have to crane your necks and
I made the decision in probably around 14 or so that I wanted to be a craftsman. I got into jewelry and metalworking actually through playing the bagpipes. This got me into Celtic design and metalwork. What I do is kind of unique, and really what I was able to do by moving to Andover in 1984, I found my own audience. I found my own validation. I think village life is terribly underrepresented in our sort of narrative about how people live. You know, over the years, we've gone from just being a one-man shop to now there's actually 10 people working here. I mean, we've got a local audience, we've got our worldwide audience, and it's a wonderful, wonderful way to be. There are a lot of artists around here, a lot of artists and craftsmen and small entrepreneurs. Even though we're running our own businesses, we're kind of working together and we're helping each other out with sources, advice, encouragement. We want things to grow and succeed here. When somebody else comes around and it shows an interest, we know that that's somebody we need to help and treasure, take care of. My apprenticeship program, I really feel strong about it. I'd like to pass on the skills I have. I wish that I had more of an apprenticeship when I was learning. An awful lot of this comes from just doing it. You know, it comes from practice, but you need some guidance. I hope I can pass that on to younger people who are staying here and doing something that I can help them with. As far as the future of Andover goes, I'm hoping that it continues to thrive as a village and as a community, that it's an ongoing living place.
So just to remind you, these ads are running on Facebook in the Buffalo and Rochester markets. And so that's sort of the story with that. So there's 2 resolutions requested in your packet. One would be to create and fill an associate planner position, and one is to fill the planning and development specialist position.
So the planning and development specialist is an existing position that you have right now. So
It currently has someone working in it, and they're leaving in March.
Right. So let's start with that one. And yes.
I'd be glad to move that for discussion.
Yep. Do we have did you get that? Okay, Mr. Ricky seconds it. Okay, so further discussion on that. That is an existing position the person is in who is leaving. And that's why you're requesting to fill that, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, any more discussion on this?
This has been signed off by all the required department heads to see that. Any department, county administrator,
Can you hear
personnel
him?
office,
I can't hear him.
comments from anyone.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mike. we're having a hard time hearing you.
Any
There you
comments from any of the people that have to sign off on this the department head already has commented, the county administrator or personnel officer, anybody have anything to say?
No, just that I've had extensive conversations with Mr. Durlam, and I approved it, and I think we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we call for a vote? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so let's move on to request to create and fill an associate planner. And explain that one to us.
So all those projects I told you that are coming up, we need more help to get all that done. And so this person will be working with the more senior folks on actually doing all those plans and providing that technical service.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'd be glad to move that for discussion also.
Okay, do we have a second for that? Mr. Ricky seconds that. Okay, further discussion. So I will ask, this has been budgeted in your 2022 budget for this year?
I believe it was. I think we had the money for it, yes.
And you're changing, and you had two planning and development specialists, I guess, in your area. Are we just changing one to an associate planner?
I think this is a new title, so it's not a change. This is just a new title.
So it's not, it's a backfill, really, correct?
It's a new title. You know, it's something we talked about last summer is that some of the titles in my department were kind of not clean, not clear, and this is moving in the right direction so that titles are proper, and it is in alignment with what more other counties do for planning positions. So it's sort of in between the full planner and the plan development specialist.
Mr. Budinger, do you have anything you can add to that?
I know we evaluated it. I'm going to be making a recommendation at the personnel committee as to, and you already see what my recommendation is going to be as far as grade.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to, but okay. When we go to personnel committee, I will be making a recommendation as to where that should land. You could already see it on your form. It's got 9-unit, grade 4. And the position is going to be focused more with the planning department. It is different than the P&D specialist, so I just want to make sure that that is clear. They are different positions.
Thank you.
And Madam Administrator, I'm guessing that you've signed off on this and approved this.
Yes, again, extensive conversations with Mr. Durlam. He is down some bodies, even though he has some vacant positions, which he's going to advertise for. I think he still needs this extra position title to take on this extra work that he's talked about.
Okay. Are there any other discussions on the committee, Mr. Healy?
You know, I have no problem with this, and I'm all for getting them all the help they need down there in both planning and economic development. I just look forward to seeing a lot of results. Thank you.
Okay.
Me too.
Any other discussion? If not, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is Craig Clark, Economic Development and Industrial Development Agency. He sent us a monthly report. As always, Craig, do you want to give us some highlights, and then we'll open it up for some questions?
Yeah, I can go through, I guess you can hear it, I hear it on. Page by page, you know, if there are questions as I go through, I'll try to go through it slower than I do usually. I try to get through, I apologize. And I try to keep all the projects on here no matter where we are in activity-wise so we don't lose anything. As far as the Crossroads project, everyone knows that the Travel Center is doing very, very well, and because of that and the assistance that the county has said they would help on economic development and other projects, The IDA has agreed to go ahead and fund the first phase out there, which would be the engineering and looking at the environmental on that. I think it's about 20 acres we own out there. And so that'll be starting probably this next week. We approved that at the last meeting. So that way we'll be shovel ready or site ready, whatever you'd like to call it. So the site will be ready to be developed. That was approved and has been signed off on. Arvos, Lundstrom, I mean, they're starting to move. I know that the biggest thing they'll be doing is, first thing they'll do is probably do an addition. They have to put on a fairly large size paint booth to do painting of these large scale structures they're going to be building. We're working with them through the college also in a different capacity of instituting. We have a $1.5 million training grant for them in Alstom so that they can help get their workforce ready, because both operations, the one in Hornell, which is Alstom, and the one in Wellsville, Arvos, are both going to be hiring 100 plus employees. And so that's good for the region, because a lot of those folks obviously will live in Allegheny County. And I know from talking to Arvos, they're looking for some long-term movement. That's just not one project. They're pretty sure they're in line to get some other large wind turbine projects. They're already bidding on other projects. So that's the first of hopefully many in Arvos. Any questions on those things? Instead of going through, I figured I'd ask questions as we go. Yes, Mike?
I just want to back up to the crossroads if I could.
Sure.
And,
That's why I don't want to go too far.
Right. Because I might not remember by the time we get to the end, right?
I know I wouldn't, so.
But I had a Wellsville area businessman. He brought back an old idea for the crossroads today to me, and that was the water park idea. And he said he'd be interested in getting some other businessmen together and maybe coming up with some funding for that project. If you'd be interested in taking a look at.
Yep.
I told him I'm not too up on water parks myself. I've heard the idea of having an ice arena there, a real, I don't know what you call it, a stadium of sorts, right? But I said maybe that would be a good fit together down there for.
I think it'd fit well with the hotel and what's being developed there. It really comes down to who wants to develop that land for an attraction type thing, either like you said, a potential ice arena, indoor soccer / or water park, indoor water park. I think would be fine. I mean, indoor water parks are becoming more and more popular. You see them advertised all the time, actually.
Well, I'll pass that information along to you
Sure.
when we're done. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody with money we'll talk to. You know that. Wellsville Business Park, I've met with the owners again today. We have a number of projects. ESD keeps sending us some projects. We still have a potential for a large metal manufacturer we're working hard with. There's also some smaller projects. We talked to somebody today about would probably be at a 40,000 square foot facility, about a $6 million a year operation. So there are things happening. The unfortunate part is everybody asks, I was actually in the beef house, the first thing they ask is anybody in there? And there are some small things in there, but we're trying to get some larger, that actually have a larger number of employees there. So I think we're going to be able to do that. What's interesting is what's nice about it is obviously low cost electric. That's the key that everybody likes when they see it. Plus it's in very good shape for an older building. So lights are on, heats are on. That's important. Any questions? Yes?
Quickly, is putting a small project involved. Was the idea microphone?
The microphone. Yeah, I talked to the owner about that this week. I'm going to meet with him next week when he's back. He's out of town right now. But yeah, quickly says that's a proposal at this stage, but I think that'll happen, yes.
Thank you.
And they're expanding quite a bit if you watch. Clean energy projects, I won't go through them in toto, but obviously the large marine solar keeps being on the radar screen. I think they're really going to start this year. I need to talk to EDF about that. I've heard some other things about movement there. And I can tell you the Alley Cat Wind project will be starting this year because we're As I mentioned before, in the process-wise, we're at the process of closing those documents with the lawyers. So having that whole lease agreement taken care of, which will be good for the two towns that are involved. So there's some pretty heavy pilot payments that they'll receive in those two communities.
So Craig, when you say started this year, does that mean the erection of the?
They would be starting with the
construction?
bases. Yeah,
Okay.
they're already talking about buying as much material as they can in Allegheny County and starting the bases for them. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the erection time, that I haven't heard. But they are moving forward with that project. And then obviously we have all the smaller ones. I have not heard anything else unless Jan can fill me in on the town, the large one in the town.
They have been in contact more frequently.
Okay.
And they just sent us that email citing all the things that they have to abide, because they're under the 96C, so
Right.
the town doesn't have a lot to say about it, but they're going to try to abide by any local law.
Right.
And they've sent us an email saying what modifications maybe have to be made to meet that law.
Because I've only talked to them, the once about the first time they showed up, and I've talked to them a couple times about that and the Hume project they're proposing, because they're both fairly large projects, but I have not really had any real detailed discussions.
Yeah, it
with
definitely
them.
looks like they're a go.
Okay.
And the other one, Delaware River, is gotten their special use permit, and they will be starting soon.
Okay, well, they should be contacting me shortly. We've worked with Delaware River before. It's a good company, so. The microenterprise grant is just about finished. We made our last grant award at the last board meeting of the IDA, and we welcomed John Rickey to the board, so now he knows directly what we're doing. And we did, obviously, by approving that last grantee, we'll be able to finish up within the extension time period, which was another 6 months. So that's why we ended up getting an extension, because one of our grantees dropped out. We are talking preliminary about actually trying to get some more money. One for a microenterprise grant again. So last time we got $200,000, spent $170 to all the grant awardees. They have to be 5-person or smaller. And we'd like to maybe up it if we could, try to get $300,000 next time, so we have more money to send out, because there's more people waiting. And there's also some other money that Cdbg is allocating for COVID-related relief. And this relief could actually go, and the businesses can benefit from 25-person and smaller. So it's not a large company, but there's a lot of companies in Allegheny County that 25 and less. And this could go for both operations and equipment. The last one could only really go for equipment. So if that all works out, we'll have potentially in the $1 million range to give out to companies again through the IDA. The only issue with that is you only have 1 year to spend the money, which is a good thing, but you have to obviously have a lot of applications in fast, and it's a good thing. And there'll be larger grants, so probably be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range.
So just to circle back on that, the micro enterprise grant, you helped
7 businesses.
7 businesses. I just wanted to get that in the minutes.
7 businesses, and a couple of more startups, and a number of more smaller companies that have a potential to grow, but they all had to be smaller than 5. So I think they've all been very good grants. They've had really good business plans. All the board members said that the business plans are very well written. Hopefully all 7 will succeed, but one never knows, but at least we've made a dent in helping people get started. The only other thing I have on here, discussion, is the IDA, as well as myself. We're all involved in the Houghton, Alfred State, and Alfred University business plan again. We're going to host that again in April, and I'll I think it's April. I don't know. I'll give you the date. I'll send out the date, because last time it was all virtual. I think we're going to do a combination of virtual and in person. And it's college students having their great ideas and trying to figure out if they can start a business, hopefully here in Allegheny County. We're trying to keep some of those graduates here. So I think it was really good. They really did a great job for the first time. So we'll be doing another one, sort of like Shark Tank with no big money. But they did. The first prize winner still got $5,000. So it was a good deal. That was a lot of fun. The only other thing, and And again, when I was doing this the other day, I forgot to add, and we did end up processing, and we're going to, as you've mentioned, and thanks the legislator for passing that, we're going to be able to help Houghton with their bonding. So it'll be about a $25 million bond. It'll save them a lot of money to refinance, primarily what they already had financed, and then do a little bit of work on their buildings on HVAC as well. So that's something we can do as the CRC does that, Capital Resource Corporation as a part of the IDA, but we can do that bonding. We don't do the bonding, but the lawyers work through that. So no one's responsible but Houghton, but it does save them a lot of money. Any questions? Any answers? Okay.
Adam just said there's a lot of good news, so.
Well, we're trying to get more. The other one is, I think we'll have some good news eventually in Wellsville too. Other news breaking news probably hopefully the next time I come back.
Oh.
So.
Well, good. We'll look forward to that. Thank you. Next up, County Administrator Kristen Knapp. We have a CDBG Micro Enterprise Grant request. You want to speak to that?
Well, sure. This is the grant, the microenterprise grant that Dr. Clark was just speaking about, and we're at the point with funds that we've spent out that we need to have a second public hearing. So we're at about 75% of the budget on this, and this is just another requirement for the grant to have the second public hearing. So all the MOE is doing is asking to set the public hearing date.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for that. Mr. Ricky makes the motion. Do we have a second? Adam Sears seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Do we have anything for old business today? Do we have anything for new business? Anything for the good of the order? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Mrs. Sanchez makes the motion, and Mr. Ricky seconds it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.